Husker Nation, I've wanted to interview Heinrich Haarberg for a long time. The man hasn't played a ton, but he's like Brook Berringer all over again. I ask him all the questions you've ever wanted to ask him. What was it like playing the veteran role for Dylan and Daniel Kalen a year ago? He gives an incredibly insightful, honest answer. I learned several things I didn't know about him. Also, why didn't he transfer from Nebraska? Why did he stay? And what's the transition to the tight end position been like? And then I ask him about Penn State and Iowa. I'm just going to tell you, I got goosebumps with his answer. You're not going to want to miss this one. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. As always, you can check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, CarrikerChronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's where your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. It's just science. Now, if you're looking forward to hearing what a true Nebraskan and a legit Husker through and through, Heinrich Haarberg, has to say, make sure you smash the like button. Also, if you haven't done so yet, we've had a lot of cool interviews on the show lately, from Amon Green to Grant Wistrom to Haarberg. Literally 3 of the past 4 shows, those have been those interviews. Make sure you subscribe and or ring that notification bell if you haven't done so. Yeah, you can also check out my prediction for Penn State just dropped, as well as, what the new offense under TJ Lateef might kind of look like. I did an X's and O's film study as well. All right, now at this time, I want to bring on our special guest. He's an academic, 3-time academic, 3 straight years, all Big Ten standout, 7-time Nebraska Scholar Athlete Honor Roll, Brook Berringer Citizenship Team Award winner, and 3-time Tom Osborne Citizenship Team Award winner, Mr. Heinrich Haarberg. How you doing, my friend?
Amazing. I can't believe, I don't know where you got that resume from. I didn't even know I had all those.
Oh, it's really hard. I went to Google Heinrich Haarberg Husker bio, and it was all right there for me. They did all the work for me. I just had to make notes. So,
That's awesome.
So as I mentioned to you before we went on air here, I want to go backwards because you've been here such a long time. And then before we go forwards a little bit, so you go back to 2021. All right, you commit to play. Scott Frost is the head coach at the time. Adrian Martinez was the starting quarterback. I think Luke McCaffrey and you crossed over for a little bit of a time. But in 2021, you played at Kearney Catholic, and you were the first scholarship quarterback in 20 years, okay, since 2001, to sign with Nebraska from the state of Nebraska. Sports Illustrated All-America candidate and amongst one of the top 20 dual-threat quarterbacks in the country. Also, your dad played for the Huskers, so I'm sure that didn't hurt. But, man, what did it mean for you to sign and play for the Huskers and for Nebraska?
I think at the time, I think I committed when I was 16. I don't think I really understood. I think there was still, I'd always been a Husker fan. I knew, my dad played here. But it took a year or two for me to realize, the significance of it. And once I did, I'm so glad. There's sometimes I was a little bit of a rebellious teenager, I'm not, I'm going to go someplace different, whatever. And, I'm so glad that I didn't let that take over. Because my dad, he always told me, don't let my past, affect your commitment. Don't go to Nebraska because I went there, write your own story. But I think at the end of the day, Nebraska was the right fit. And then all these other things just kind of fell into place to where, it was a real, I started to recognize, the significance of my dad playing here and the legacy that I could create, being an in-state guy.
All right, man. So you redshirt your first year. You don't see the field for your first couple of years, but going into your sophomore year, you played H-back the first game up at Minnesota, but then you played in, let me see if I can read my notes here. You played in 10 games. You had 8 starts, and you had 5 wins as a starting quarterback for Nebraska in 2023. Now, just as a reminder for those folks out there who may not recall, that was Matt Rule's first season. Marcus Satterfield was the offensive coordinator. Jeff Sims, who was brought in and started the first couple of games, got hurt. What was that first year like for you? Starting those games, getting some wins as a team, Matt Rule's first season, all that stuff. What was that like for you?
It was, looking back on it now, maybe a part of it was just how inexperienced I was, but I think it was also kind of just how the attitude of that team that year, every game was like a war. It was we're running triple option. I'm I think there was some games, I mean, I was carrying the ball like 25, 30 times, and it was just, I was only about 215 back then. Like, it started to wear on me a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot, but it was, looking back, like it was probably like the most fun I had, playing football. Like that team that year, we were so close. Mostly because of the hard things that we had to go through. But I mean, that was an awesome year.
So, for those who don't remember, Nebraska was actually number 2 in the Big Ten in rushing that year. Definitely, like you said, ran the triple option quite a bit as well. Now, it was interesting that season because Jeff was banged up and you started, and you were banged up, and then Chubba Purdy started versus Wisconsin and Iowa. There's 3 different quarterbacks that started throughout that year. But you go into the offseason, Jeff is no longer here, Chubba doesn't stay. All right, and you're in a battle with for the starting quarterback role with Dylan and Daniel Kalen. What was that entire offseason like for you?
I think, well, for the most part, I was just trying to get back to being healthy. Those last, those winter months, and then all of a sudden I was a little bit behind the ball in spring ball, trying to get back into shape. Sitting on the couch and just eating a lot doesn't do a whole lot of good to your body. So that was kind of a tough time, but it was a completely different switch for me. So this is an interesting, just kind of a tidbit is, so for my entire career up until 2023, I was the youngest quarterback in the room.
Mm.
Richard Torres, who came in the year after me, was actually older than me. And then 2023, we didn't bring in a freshman. And so I was still the youngest. And then all of a sudden, after Jeff and Chuba left, and then all of a sudden I was the oldest.
Mm.
And
That is
then
interesting.
so it was kind of this weird dynamic switch where I wouldn't say that I don't mess around or clown too much in meetings, but it was all of a sudden like you're the youngest, you don't you can kind of settle back if you need to or if you want to, like there's not a whole lot of pressure on you to all of a sudden like, oh, like I have to be the leader of the quarterback room. And you've got 2 freshmen coming in who, granted, both those guys they were super, like they were the most prepared freshmen I've ever seen in college, like, and at least in my experience in college football, like they came in ready to battle, and there was no immaturity there, and so I didn't really feel a need to do anything crazy, but it was kind of a 180-degree switch, like, oh, like I'm the old head now, but
And now I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction, our longtime partners, because they do phenomenal work. Nobody is better when it comes to concrete work and retaining wall expertise. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. If you need concrete work, retaining wall work done, and the like, go to dpsconstruction.net. Also, if this is the type of work you do and you're looking for a good employer and a good job, Jason Armstrong is the guy you want to work for. Again, check them out at dpsconstruction.net. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors and good partners, Husker Auto Group. Check them out at huskerautogroup.com. They have new GMC Sierras at 20% off of MSRP. 2025 Chevy Silverados, 20% off as well. New 2025 Escalades in stock with $5,000 off of MSRP. Call Husker Auto Group for details. That number is 402-479-7500 or visit huskerautogroup.com. All trades accepted. Financing available with APR financing as low as 0%. 2025 models going fast. All new 2026 models are arriving daily. So going into your junior year and throughout your junior year, you really embraced the veteran kind of mentorship role for Dylan and the other younger players in that quarterback room, on that team as a whole. At times, I got to imagine that may not have been easy for you. Very Brook Berringer-esque, at least that's what it reminded me of, and I respected it very much from my perspective. But talk about that kind of role and embracing that kind of role for the good of the team.
yeah, I mean, I think in all honesty, I think I grew more in 2024 than I did in 2023. I think from an X's and O's standpoint, as a person, as a as a man.
Mhm.
I think I grew more last year than I did any of those other years. It took a lot to humble myself. Um, just like that humility piece of, last, 2023, I'm the starter. Doing all this cool stuff. I had a couple good games in there, and then all of a sudden, like I'm sitting on the sideline against Colorado, and it's just like kind of have to take a step back, and there's a lot of emotions, and it took a lot of growth for me to be able to handle those emotions and still keep trying to pour into Dylan and help the team out as much as I could.
Now you did play a few different positions last year. I was trying to write them all down. Like obviously you came in at the end of the game. I don't know if folks recall versus UCLA and led us down the field. So you played some regular quarterback, but it was also like running back. There was some H back. There were some trick plays. I don't know if I want to say wildcat quarterback, but you came in, you ran the ball a few times. And then you started at tight end versus Boston College in the bowl game. So talk about playing a plethora of different positions while being the backup quarterback throughout last season as well.
Yeah, I mean that's also kind of what I was saying about 2024 is like that X's and O's standpoint. Like Coach Thomas, like um, one of the best quarterback coaches I've had the chance to be around. Just being able to it's a different, not a completely different mind. Like you're still preparing to get ready to play as the backup, but you can kind of take a step back and you don't have to be, so dialed in on the next team. Like I think that year just gave me a chance to really learn football. And we watched so much tape with Coach Thomas, and you know, also having the opportunity to learn these different positions. There wasn't, I didn't go to like the running back meeting or the tight end meetings last year, but getting a chance to, I guess kind of get my feet wet a little bit in those positions. You look at it from a quarterback standpoint, and then all of a sudden you got to figure out as a tight end, okay, now how am I going to block? Like, so it was really unique experience for me last year and this year as well.
So I chatted with your dad. Oh, it was after Christmas, so maybe 8, 9 months ago, and he told me that you'd obviously been on punt protection team, but he's like, Adam, they had no fake put in, but defenses would see Haarberg and be like, fake, 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 but you weren't out there to run a fake. He told me that you even did some linebacker drills at times with Tony White. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm curious, what were the off-season conversations like with Matt Rule, Dana Holgerson, the coaches in general, whether it was John Butler, Tony White, because transferring had to be a very real option in your mind, but you chose to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my goal was to play in the NFL. I think that's from the time I was 6 years old. I remember asking my mom, like, "Mom, do you think I can play in the NFL?" And to her, like, she was always so supportive of me, like, absolutely. And I think I really started to recognize 2024, like, hey, like a little behind the eight ball here with the quarterback. If you want to go play in the NFL, maybe you get a chance just because of your athleticism. But like, is that a sustainable career? Really had some good talks with Coach Rule about where to switch to, and what path would put me down. Hopefully a better shot at a longer NFL career because, like I said, that's something I've always wanted to do. And we tried out. Yeah, I did a couple linebacker drills and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, like I knew, like just because of the X's and O's piece, of knowing the offense and knowing like the advantage of having that quarterback mindset. And you've seen so many tight ends transition from quarterback to tight end, and being able to use that. I really wanted to use that to my advantage, and that's really where I decided my gifts would be best used.
What specifically made you stay with Nebraska versus try and tight end at another school potentially?
I mean, I think on like I as it's the part of it is just I knew like the legacy piece that I could leave behind here. You also think about all these Nebraska players and like how I remember being so appreciative of, Nebraska players who stayed for 4 or 5 years when I was younger, and like watching those guys grow up, and like like I see Kenny Bell at an event or something, and like he looks a little bit different now, but like all I can remember is like when I was in fourth grade, we took a trip to Memorial Stadium, and like I saw Kenny Bell walking through like the hallway, and like just like the awe that I got from seeing Kenny Bell in person, like just hoping to have you know just a little bit of impression like that on kids across the state, and hoping to leave a legacy that's far greater than any amount of money or anything like that.
So talk to me about the transition to tight end, because one of the first things that I asked, and anybody's naturally going to ask, all right, he was a physical runner as an option quarterback. How does that transition into blocking? Because if you're not used to blocking, you played, I was a quarterback in high school, so I can speak to the transition a little bit, at least going to defense, but blocking, not having done it a ton. You seem to have taken to that pretty freaking well. But talk to me about the transition to tight end, not only blocking, but route running, catching, and how you feel doing all that at this point now.
Yeah, it's it's been really tough, but it's also been really fun just because I think I kind of had hit a point with quarterback where you can't overhaul as much as I could, just being as raw as I am or as I was coming in to tight end. Like it was, instead of just kind of creeping like 1 inch at a time, it was like these leaps and bounds from practice to practice. Like, oh, okay, I figured out how to do this, or I figured out how to do this. And it's just like keep on applying it over and over and over again. And like, granted, there's still so much today that like I'm working as hard as I was day one on getting my hands in the right spot and run blocks or stuff like that. And like there were a couple things that were maybe a little bit easier, like some of those split zone blocks. It's kind of like
Mhm.
carrying the ball. You kind of got you don't be scared, run your feet through contact and put your shoulder in there, and all of a sudden there's a pop that the whole stadium hears. Those are the things that I'm still working on, but they came a little bit easier. But the route running, it took me probably 10, 15 spring practices to start to like, okay, like it's not like a straight line, and like it's not like as a quarterback you spend all this time drawing up the routes on a piece of paper, and like it's perfect precise angles, and like all of a sudden you realize as a tight end or as a route runner, it's like, oh, like that's not realistic at all. Like you have to
Yep.
bend, and but you still have to run the route at the right yardages and give the quarterback a good window. And so there's just a lot of things that, like I said, I'm working really hard on right now, and I'm going to continue to be working on for a while. And I know that's what the great tight ends do. Travis Kelsey, George Kittle, those guys are always working. So um, gonna continue to do that.
All right, so I was told at one point in time you had the fastest top end speed of anyone on the team. I'm curious. Feel free to talk trash, because when I ask receivers anything like this, they have no problem talking trash about who the fastest guy is. But do you think you still have the fastest top end speed? And I wouldn't even say 40. If there's like a 100-meter race, a little bit longer. All right, guys like you and me, I was not in the conversation for fastest, but like long-legged guys, we need more time to get up there, so to speak. If there's a 100-meter dash race on the team, who do you think wins?
100 meters. I mean, I think I'm pushing it, but if everyone's healthy, I mean, I don't see anyone beating Ja'Cory Barney.
Mm.
Um, I mean, just it's that combination of just that twitch off the line, and his top end speed is. I think I still have him in the miles per hour I think as of right now, my top end PR is 22.7, and I don't think anyone has beat that yet. But like you said, it takes me about
Mm,
40 yards to start to get going.
yep,
Um, but I mean, I think Jacory, I think he won the race in the spring. I can't remember,
he
but
did.
yeah,
At the Husker games, I was there.
yeah,
Um, I, Isaiah still is like eighth in the country in top
yeah.
miles per hour speed in the game. And that was that screen pass earlier in the year where he was missing a cleat. It was like 21.9 miles per hour in pads in the middle of a game. All right, man. Penn State. What's been Matt Rule's message to the team when it comes to Penn State? What's kind of the vibe in the locker room as you guys get ready to head out to Happy Valley?
I mean, I think we're all. So for me, this is I'm not gonna paint it as oh, it's just another game. Like this is an environment that when you commit to Nebraska, like you want to go play in. Um, there's no hiding from that. I think everybody can acknowledge the fact that this is a legendary environment. And what Penn State has done this year. There's for whatever they've done, for whatever their record shows, they're still a super talented team. And they're fighting every day. You see it in the Indiana game. Like they took
Mm,
Indiana, number 2 team in the country, and Penn State is. I mean, it would have been so easy for those guys to just kind of throw it in, like, oh, we're whatever they were 3-6 or whatever 3-5, and just been like whatever. But I mean, they're fighting, and I mean it's their senior day or their senior night, and like I've been thinking about don't want to get too far down the road, but I've been thinking about the significance of the Iowa game next week. Like that's my senior day. Like
mm.
how hard am I going to play? The last time I ever get to play in Memorial in front of my family, in front of everyone who's ever watched me grow up and play football. Like that'll be my last time ever putting on, well, besides a bowl game, putting on the end, and like we can't take these guys lightly just because of our record. Like we know they're going to come out and play hard.
So you actually led into my next question perfectly. I'm going to be a little bit more blunt so you can respond however you'd like. How badly, I know it's senior day, but just how badly do you frickin' want to beat Iowa?
Super bad, especially. I mean, just the kind of the sequence of events over the last couple of years that
Mm,
we've lost, or you know the ways that we've let our seniors go out. It's not a good feeling at all. And I just, as you asked that question, all I can see are the last 4 times we played Iowa, and it's just every single, like, it just it hits a little bit differently. Last second field goal, a pick. And there was a win in there.
hmm
But wanting to go out, I think more than anything, our last game on that field, wanting it to be a win against a team that has caused so much, heartbreak and to end our seasons for the last couple of years.
All right, man. Last question, because you know you're going to play in a bowl game no matter what. Some of us are rooting for Florida. If we're taking our families there for Christmas vacation, please help us get to Florida. New York was wonderful. One time was good though. Um, who would be a dream bowl game opponent in your mind?
Okay, so this is actually, I was thinking about this. So I don't know if I don't even know if you knew this, but I grew up in Nashville.
Mm,
From basically the time I was born until I was, I think, 11 years old. Spent almost half my life in Nashville, and all through even preschool, kindergarten, all the way up to, I think it was like 5th grade or something. All I had to hear about was the Vols. So I guess that would be my team that because I think there are a couple projections that we're going to play Tennessee in the Music City Bowl or in Tampa. I don't know, but I do think that would be a kind of a cool one for me, at least, to bring it all back home, because all through elementary school I was the one kid wearing Nebraska, and every Friday or whatever I was the one kid wearing red and a whole bunch of ugly orange. So yeah, that'd be a cool one for me.
So I can relate to that on multiple levels. Number one, I'm cool with playing Tennessee. Again, just Tampa or Orlando. I don't want to go to Nashville. Love Nashville, but it's cold. All right. I can relate to that. I was born in Hastings, lived there until I was 3. My dad's job took me upstate of Washington. So I grew up from the age of 3 through 17, I graduated high school in state of Washington. I was the only guy who cared that Tommy Frazier ran over 19 Gators after that Fiesta Bowl. I was the only guy that cared that we pancaked Warren Sapp in the Orange Bowl. And then Washington never offered me. And then Oregon pulled their offer. Those were the 2 teams I always wanted to play. I never got a chance to play. So this happens all the time. I got to quit making hand signals, balloons up in the air again, and so there you go. But I never got to play them, and I really, really wanted to. Hey, man, I'm now rooting to play Tennessee somewhere in Florida. All right. I want to thank you for taking the time to join me. Ladies and gentlemen, the fan questions are brought to you by our good friends at Husker Auto Group. Check them out at huskerautogroup.com. Also, you can follow. You're on X, right? Where else are you at on social media?
Instagram. That's it.
All right, give Haarberg a follow. I'm on X, Facebook, and TikTok. All right, 3 questions. Let me know your answer in the comments below. Number 1, would you like to see more players with Haarberg's mentality in college football in general in the future? Number 2, let's be realistic. In the day and age of NIL transfer portal, not a bad thing, but it changes the way people look at things. How hard is it on a scale of 1 to 10 to have a similar mindset in today's day and age of college football? And number 3, is Haarberg one of your favorite players on this year's Nebraska football team? Again, thank you for joining me. Go Big Red, and always remember to throw the bone.